So I could not sleep last night. I was up until like 3 o'clock in the morning. I randomly grabbed my board and I started writing down how I process healing, how my brain understands healing. So I'm gonna show y'all what I wrote. So say if you're trying to heal from a wound, right? Whatever wound this may be. So I just wrote trust wound. I look at healing like the game we used to play when we were kids, the maze, right? So we start here and we go through all of these things and we try to get here. All right, so I'm gonna go through this fast, so stay with me. So you have this trust wound, right? And you're gonna do this with every wound that you have. Well, at least that's my belief. But anyway, so you have this trust wound. First step is becoming aware. So awareness, right? Because sometimes we will have this wound so suppressed that we don't even actually know that we have the wound, or we need to change something about ourselves. So we got to become aware. So now that I know I have a trust wound, what's the next step? You have to understand. Understanding why you have this trust wound. Why did little John show up, or Big Booty Stacy show up to reflect this wound to you? So understanding is why did this happen. Okay, so now that you understand that little John and Big Booty Stacy was sent to you by the universe to reflect back to you what you didn't believe in yourself, right? So you didn't trust yourself, so they betrayed you in a way to make you doubt yourself again, to realize that you still don't trust yourself. So they reflected your trust issue. Okay, so now you understand why these things happen to you. Now you have to understand. This is a deeper level, right? So what's the deeper meaning of this trust wound? This is where shadow work comes into play. This is where you sit with yourself and be like, when was the first time I betrayed myself? Why do I continue to betray myself? You ask yourself all these questions. Dig deep on why this trust wound even exists. Once you do that, sometimes you realize it's an ancestral pattern passed down. So that means you're not only breaking this for you, but you're breaking this for your ancestral line, right? Because maybe your mother didn't trust herself. Maybe her mother's mother didn't trust herself, or, so on and so forth. Okay, so now that you understand that it was a deeper reason of why you have this trust wound and why you're meant to heal this trust wound, you can move on to the next step. So down the maze, we go to forgiving, right? Now we have to forgive. But before we get to this forgiving, just like any maze, we're going to find these blocks, right? So you're going to go this way, you think this is the way to go, and you get blocked. You're going to try to forgive, and you're going to go this way, blocked, right? And these blocks can be filled with anything: doubt, anger, fear, illusion, sadness, etc., right? We all have to go through these blocks. Everyone is probably going to go through this block. You're not just going to go straight from understanding to forgiving. And if you are, kudos to you. All right, so now that we're going into the forgiving stage, you have to first forgive yourself, because you can't forgive anybody else until you forgive yourself. And then the person, little John and Big Booty Stacy, right? So we can release these things. So forgiving yourself may mean giving yourself grace, pouring into yourself, etc. So remember that these things take practice. All right? You are human, so you have to give yourself grace, because you didn't know better. If you didn't go through this, you wouldn't have had known, right? You may stayed a little longer, but guess what? You are human. So this takes practice. Like I said, pouring into yourself. This stage is however long you need it to be. So once you finally get to a point where you forgive yourself, you realize you're only human, you're learning, you went through this experience so you can become a bigger and better you, right? Closer to the higher divine version of yourself. Then you can forgive that other person, little John and Big Booty Stacy, because now you understand and understand that this had nothing to do with them. They were just a pawn sent by the universe, right? Boom. Because you're understanding they were just a reflection of you. So if you forgave you, it's like forgiving them as well. All right, so now the next step to the maze is transmuting. So transmuting to me is breaking the pattern. That means in this stage right here, this is where the test comes in at. This is where you meet another John and another Big Booty Stacy to see if you really learn the lesson of trusting yourself. This whole part right here is always up to you. So it depends on Are you really going to put what you learn into action, or are you going to keep repeating the cycle, right? Are you going to keep going back to these blocks, the illusions, the sadness, the fear, the doubt, all of these things, etc., right? So transmuting it is breaking the pattern. Once you break this pattern and you realize and learn how to trust yourself, when more Johns and more Big Booty Stacy's come up, then you have transmuted that. Then it's alchemizing it, right? You have alchemized this wound into something great. Now you can go teach about it. You can tell others how to break it, or whatever your gift is, or whatever you're here to do to alchemize it. You can put it in some art, put it in a song, whatever the case may be. This is where the alchemizing comes in at. So now that you turn this wound into something beautiful, something meaningful, right? Your ancestors is cheering. Congratulations, you broke a ancestral pattern, right? Now you can start letting these things go, releasing this energy that no longer serves you. That means cutting off John and Big Booty Stacy so they won't trigger this wound, or whomever else that came after them, right? Letting it go. This may be the hardest part of this whole chart. Releasing this energy. Okay? So once you learn how to let this thing go, now this wound is healed. Now you feel good. Now you're no longer letting anyone or nothing or no one make you betray yourself, right? And that is something that your ancestors probably couldn't do, and they're happy that you broke that pattern. Okay, so hopefully you stayed with me. Okay, that's how my brain processed healing and the steps that I usually take to heal. And I don't know why I wrote that at 3 something in the morning, but I did.